of course, nobody's ever pasteurized a woman before she gave the milk to the baby, or pasteurized women's breast milk to give to a baby.
Well, that's like half of women now in the country do cesarean. They're taking over all the natural functions, and they've CPS'd women's children. Even though they didn't need a cesarean, they still try to force it on them. And pretty soon it'll be the law. You have to have a cesarean, and they'll say it's a conspiracy theory that women ever had babies normally.
Yeah, and of course the cesarean that the doctor suggests when it's not a medical emergency is for the doctor's convenience, because he has lots of things to do instead of having to hang around for a couple hours during the first and second stages of labor. He wants to get that done in 20 minutes, leave his assistants to sew the lady up, and he's off to the golf course. And so it's again personal turf. Why they do those things is not for the patient's convenience. It's not for the patient's benefit. Medical doctors treat the birth process as a disease in a special area of the hospital. Insurance pays for it. It's absolutely insane that this happens, and this cost is one of the reasons why the medical costs are so high. And of course, the medical benefits for all things are what drives the jobs out of the country. If we didn't have these medical benefits, we'd still have jobs here. But the fact that publicly traded companies, corporations, can actually hire people outside the United States because they don't have to pay medical benefits, this is what's driven the jobs out of the country. And it's the medical benefits are the basic root cause of that, because Clinton signed the NAFTA bill in 1992. And it took 10 years for China and India and Mexico to build the infrastructure so they could manufacture things like Maytag washers and dryers and other appliances and automobiles and airplanes. And what I've learned here, I don't know if you've said this on your show before, Alex, but by 2010, somewhere by the middle of 2010, the entire aircraft industry in Seattle and Tacoma, Boeing and Airbus, are moving to Mexico for manufacturing their aircraft, and Seattle and Tacoma are going to be like Detroit here by 2010.
Yes, I've seen that. I mean, NAFTA and GATT devastated us. It was Al Gore who helped clinch that, the pitchman for that. Now they want to have carbon tax on top of the skeleton that is left of our industry. And the United Nations has stated, Maurice Strong has stated in official UN speeches and policy, that they want to deindustrialize the West, bankrupt us so badly that we can't even afford to have one child, much less two. All of this being done so they completely bankrupt the society, jack up taxes, and then literally institutionalize anyone that can't pay their taxes or jump through all the carbon tax home inspections or all the animal ID, premises ID. They will medicalize all the food and feed us the irradiated toxic gruel, and the eugenics plan is complete. In closing, and I'll have you back up sometime, Doctor, and we appreciate you coming on. In closing, from the eugenics angle, I mean, you were saying, well, I don't want to give local doctors a pass. You're saying out of laziness, selfishness, and wanting to make money. But what about the overall directive that's directing this system? I have found the clear blueprints for this being an orchestrated agenda. Well, yeah, eugenics is something I've studied very heavily because it started out, really, my interest got in the eugenics process because of the Indiana Jones movies. When you dig back into it, it goes way back into the, beyond the 1700s, the beginning of the slave days, where people were measuring people's heads and, well, this person can't reproduce and that sort of thing. And it's gotten very sophisticated. And so what we have to do is, if you avoid the system, if you don't participate in the system, then they can't get you. If you avoid, for instance, if you avoid the vaccinations, you take personal responsibility, you practice good hygiene, you use something simple like aromatherapy oils and just good soap and water, and you personal hygiene, and you don't put your fingers in your nose and your eyes and your mouth. You eat food with a fork instead of your fingers. Take your shoes off and your socks off before you go in your house, and don't drag street germs into your rug in the house or your little kid rolls around the floor. You're going to survive and do well. But if you don't pay attention to those details, you will die. And we know that the flu vaccine only protects 15 to 30% of the people who get the vaccine, but yet 100% have risk of danger from the vaccine. So, oh gosh, it's one of those things where certainly
people we come in contact with are just 78 to 90% are refusing the vaccines.
Associated with infertility, this could be associated with cancer. I mean, that's on the vaccine insert. Meanwhile, the news media is saying there's no adverse reactions, no problems. It's a conspiracy theory. You know, that's why I joke and say soon they'll say it's a conspiracy theory that women are supposed to breastfeed, or that that's what breasts are even for. But the asinine level of lying. Now we have the NHS staff are refusing to take the vaccine. This is out of England. The Department of Health has ordered NHS bosses across England to ensure that frontline staff can immunize against swine flu amid growing signs that many doctors and nurses intend to shun the vaccine. Same thing happening here in the U.S. That's why the smallpox forced inoculation program fell through in 2002, 2003 with the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act, because the vast majority of the medical workers and doctors wouldn't take it. Folks, people like Dr. Dean Adele, I listen to him sometimes on Sundays because the local station has me on right after him. Alternative MDs, and there are a lot of those folks out there saying he represents what naturopathic doctors are saying. He does straw man. He lies about what you're saying about minerals and vitamin D and plenty of sleep and getting sunlight to not get the flu or die of it. And he says, oh, no, the naturopathic people, they say take a little bit of what makes you sick and put it in a bucket and then divide it out into another bucket and then divide it out into another bucket and then divide it out into another bucket, and then that'll make you well. When I've never heard a naturopathic doctor talk like that, it's just all lies. And I don't think it's working anymore.